You're live on Newsroom Africa, Channel 405, a special dialogue then tonight. We're discussing the issues of the, I think, returns that the country will be able to look back on at the end of the year to say that indeed progress has been made in the fight against the scourge. Now, earlier, I think in an unprecedented move, the president committing funding.
And I can see all the messages that are emboldened on the placards that you are holding. And I am internalizing all of them. I know that you are saying enough is enough.
I joined the protest outside the Cape Town International Convention Center during the World Economic Forum. The protest was basically the idea of locating this protest in that space was because world leaders were gathered there to speak about the economy of the country, which obviously does not involve women, children, gender minorities, if we were being killed at the rate that we're being killed. So So what then followed was that while we were protesting, women from varying age groups, because this is not a student issue, this is an issue that affects anybody who is a woman or who comes from a gender minority. So we were protesting. At some point, the powers that be decided that our cries were inconvenient for them.
But given the urgency of the situation, we have developed what we would call an emergency action plan. We are now in a position to allocate more than 1.6 billion rand . 1.6 billion has now become available for this purpose.
That was the commitment made by the president earlier on this year. Someone who's on the panel who can explain to us what exactly that money is going to do. And I think, firstly, have you been given that money, the departments that are supposed to be working together to make sure?
With the steering committee. That 1.6 million is the reprioritization in government spending. They went to the different departments to look for this money. They've ended up with 1.6 billion from social development, justice, public works, sports, arts and culture, all of them. They found that money, right? Including the police, by the way, right? Once that money was found, then all the departments needed to tell us how that money is going to spend, based on some of the pronouncements that the president made on emergency response to gender-based violence, right? For instance, as the police, they have said to us, rape kits will be at every police station, right? And there's budget allocation for that, right? They've already given at the confirming and verifying. And everyone has a responsibility to do so. Because that's accountability, that's where it starts, right? We need to be sure that when they say to us they've delivered the rape kits, they've been delivered. We want those rape kits to deal with the backlog, 50,000 cases that he spoke about. Part of the problem is that the rape kits and the evidence is sitting at the forensic lab. There are no resources to process those DNA tests and that evidence, so that then it is brought before the police, and then we can investigate, and NPA can do the work that it's supposed to do. Second is around, they've made promises, the undertakings as the police, don't forget, right? They've already said to us that they're going to strengthen his unit. He has been complaining for I don't know for how many years that he does not have enough allocated money. He has to now find credible, competent police officers and investigators to bolster that unit.
But I wonder then, because in one breath, if I'm understanding the response to this problem, is that you're relying on the very same departments that helped create the problem to now suddenly be able to fix it, with, of course, the fact that you'll be watching them as a prefect and perhaps slapping them on the wrist if they're not doing what they said they would do.
And it's working.
How effective is that as a mechanism?
It's working. The pressure is unbelievable and unbearable to all the government departments at the moment, right? Because we're watching them like hogs. So every week on a Thursday, we receive reports, right, from all of them. So we have submitted a report today to the president, who then, once he has received the report from the steering committee, calls the minister in charge to say,
they're burning for some time. Please.
So I think one of the other things for me is, this issue of violence is everyone's problem. Yeah. And I still have a particular problem with how media reports and frames issues of violence, right? There's still a tone, an underlying tone that still blames, right, and shames victims of violence. The burden is still placed on those who have survived under some horrific circumstances to prove of emergency that is. We've never in the history of South Africa heard of 1.6 billion having been raised and coordinated in the manner that it has. And what we need now is accountability from all people, everybody. And we need to be accountable with each other. So all the Chapter 9 institutions must be accountable. All the departments need to be accountable. The presidency needs to be accountable. Cathy, when we were trying to send letters through to the speakers of parliaments, on the civil society work that we did a few months ago, we struggled to even get an email for the speakers of the legislatures. It's despicable, right? So we need to know who in the presidency must women phone when they're in trouble. Who must they phone when someone is order in their hand? Who must they phone at the police when things go wrong and they are being chased away? We need women, we need a public-wide campaign like we did with HIV to change the stigma, to change the tone of how people looked at people living with HIV. We know it works and we need to do it now with gender-based violence, but we need to be very careful around the messaging and the language that we use when you're doing these campaigns.
Sure. I want us to go.
Comments that I wanted to make. Earlier on when our colleague here asked about social workers, the problem that we are seeing rising right now is the 10 to 14-year deliveries. We are happy to report them as deliveries, but we are not talking statutory rape. So we are ignoring the fact that young people are being raped. Forget that they give consent. The law says a 14-year-old cannot give consent. So it's still statutory rape. So we need to deal with that as one aspect. Our law puts...
I'll take...
I'm also from the Black Woman Caucus organization. Okay. I'm sitting here just thinking, okay, I'm a migrant, as you can see. I'm one of the survivors who addressed the president about what we go through as migrant women. And I just wanted to find out, Comrade Brenda, that is there anything us as migrant women in various institutions, migrants, like maybe Hebrew police stations, did you maybe venture in the idea of maybe allocating translators in police stations, migrant-friendly desk or migrant-friendly police officers, and also in hospitals, also as you are allocating AMA-REP kits in every institution, please do remember us as well as migrant women, because we tend to hold back when we are abused, because chances are, and it's always guaranteed, that we'll be re-victimized in any of the institutions. So may we please have migrant-friendly desks in various institutions. May also be allocated translators, especially for foreign nationals that are coming from other countries that do not know any language, any native language in this country. So thank you so much.
All right, sure. I'm going to ask you to pause that thought, because we are going to delve into this issue a little bit further as we continue our conversation just after 7 o'clock, but perhaps an opportunity to respond to some of the issues that have been said very briefly.
I want to speak about the money. I think we must understand that it is there. trusting them. We must trust them. Otherwise, government must dissolve. Then we run this country on our own. Everybody runs their own street or their own village. We put public servants in positions of power to do what they are supposed to do.
Many of which have proven themselves to be untrustworthy.
Well, without a doubt they have, but I think it is to get the summit to happen and then get this money to come. But government must act. The criminal justice system must act. The police must act. The schools must act. Local government must act. And maybe you are right in saying it is about time that when we elect officials, we ask ourselves, are we electing a feminist government? Are we electing a government that is going to put the needs of women first? And maybe, but they must. We have them right now. Can they please?
A migrant, you know, there is no look for a migrant woman, and this is part of the problem, right? Is that people have experienced so much trauma that you kind of have to declare that just to earn your, you know, that's also part of the problem, you know. And I think it's also got to do with our leadership. A lot of our leadership are Afrophobic. A lot of the times they do utter, you know, things that are really just out of order. And I think, you know, this is a human rights issue. The right to safe space, the right to live in under peaceful conditions. These are human rights issues. We're not asking for a favor. We're not asking for people or men to be extra nice to us because we are just women, right? These are human rights issues that we are dealing with. And these are non-negotiables. And at the moment, negotiate. You constantly have to perform. Do I need to wear turkeys in case of age, extremes of age? People who are differently abled, is there braille in police stations? Is there sign language in police stations, right? What do we do with people who need physical mobility aids? Can they go up any ramp in the police? All sex workers. Yeah?
I'm going to have to intervene. I cannot take your comment because we've completely run out of time for this session of the conversation. But important issues being raised around how gender-based violence affects minorities, and that's going to be the next leg of our conversation. We'll also be taking a look at technologies that are being developed in helping to fight then gender-based violence. Let me thank Advocate Brenda Madumise Pajimo, Dr. Teleng Mufokeng, and Major General Bafana Linda for their contribution to our conversation tonight. This is Newsroom Africa. We're back after this. Do stay with us.